Welcome to Beyond Words Presents. I'm your host, Whitney Diffenderfer, and this week we are here with authors Amy Ahlers and Christine Arylo. Their new book, which is actually not coming out until April 7th, so we're a little bit early, but just in time to start getting you excited, is called Reform Your Inner Mean Girl, 7 Steps to Stop Bullying Yourself and Start Loving Yourself. And it's all based on their internationally celebrated Inner Mean Girl Reform School, which has helped women all over the world, over 30,000 women all over the world, stop listening to their inner critic. I'm trying to get this right. Transform their inner critic and support their inner wisdom, empower their inner wisdom. And Amy and Christine, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hello, Whitney. Hello, everybody. It's so nice to be here. Thank you so much for having us.
You're so welcome. That's Amy. And then Christine.
Christine is here. I'm the brunette. Amy's the blonde.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And I just want to let everybody out there know what we're going to be doing in the next hour. I'm super excited about. We're going to be looking at the 3 secrets to reforming your inner mean girl. I know that I have one. I know that I probably have more than one, and she's very, very strong and is constantly speaking in my head, so I'm super excited about this. And if you have any questions, comments, anything like that, you can always submit them using the Google Hangouts app, and you can also use the hashtag BWPresents. And remember to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. So the first question that I have for you guys, just to kind of kick things off and ask the obvious question, what is your inner mean girl?
Well, we like to say the inner mean girl is that inner critic in your head. It's that voice that basically is like, it's like that voice that's on your shoulder, rah, 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 comparing your worst to everyone else's best. It's that voice inside of you that tells you that you're not enough, that tells you that you're failing, that tells you that you're unlovable. It's that voice that's constantly criticizing and having you self-sabotage, really. We also like to call it self-bullying. It's like that bully inside your head that just won't leave you alone.
So I'm not the only one that has that.
You're not the only one. We swear. Okay, Christine, back. Yes.
And not, not all inner mean girls are mean either. So just like mean girls on the playground, or mean girls in the carpool, or mean girls in the conference room, some mean girls are more sly, manipulative. You don't even, they're not all bullies, but they do all blindside you, and they do all sabotage you, and they basically, just like the mean girl, how many of us have been in a work situation, or even with our friends, when some woman or girl hasn't been so kind to us, or has done something that's really sabotaged us. And so there are ways that they show up that don't feel so mean, but in the end, it's that force inside of yourself that is sabotaging you instead of supporting you. And for most women and girls, we found that these actually start as young as the age of 7. So it starts as the yeah, I know, just it's like this inner force inside of you that causes you to make decisions that aren't for your highest good. It's the one that keeps you doing the same toxic habit over and over and over again. Like, you're like, why can't I change this about myself? Well, because that inner mean girl is the one behind sabotaging you. And not our fault in many ways that we can't turn this negative voice off, or we can't stop ourselves from the sabotaging habits because it feels like it is us. But the great thing about our inner mean girl, and what we're going to talk about today, is she actually isn't you. She's a part of you, but you are not, in fact, your inner mean girl. It's good news.
Well, it's very exciting news, actually, because I've been thinking about that recently, knowing that our interview was coming up, and thinking about, who is my inner mean girl? What is she saying to me? And everybody always talks about that little voice inside your head, and my voice talks to me pretty much all the time, I think, as many people's does, and she's just nasty, and I love thinking of her as not just a part of me, like, because for me, a lot of the times I'm like, wow, that's just who I am, that's just the truth, I'm telling myself that, so it must be true, right?
That's how a lot of women feel, Whitney. The good news is you're not alone, and anyone here that's listening, you're not alone. I'm just remembering Amy, one of our Inner Mean Girl Reform School students, Kelly. We actually wrote about her in the book don't know if we used her name Kelly. I can never remember what names we used when we put them in the book. But anyway, Kelly had this crazy, this inner mean girl that she met when she started Inner Mean Girl Reform School, and her inner mean girl, super obsessive and super perfectionist, and she basically just thought that that was how she always was, and she was doomed to basically feel like she was always a failure, and she was always going to feel like she was alone, and no matter how much she did, it was never enough. She just thought that was really just part of her makeup. And when she met her inner mean girl, which we later named Regina, she realized that actually it wasn't like a death sentence, a prison sentence, to always be run by that voice. And that's some of what we'll talk about today, because while that is one voice that you have inside of your mind and really inside of your whole body, you actually also have another voice, another force that's actually even stronger, called your inner wisdom, that we're going to talk about as well today. So the good news is there's more than one force. There's the dark force and the light force. Bring them all to the light tonight.
Well, and the other thing that I want to mention before we dig into the secrets, because I'm really excited to get to those, is that there are a bunch of different mean girl archetypes, and you guys have created this fantastic quiz that people can take. I actually just took it right before to get an idea of what your mean girl archetype is, and you can go to www.innermeangirl.com/beyond to take that quiz, and you'll find out who your inner mean girl is. And I will let you guys know my inner mean girl is the perfectionist, and it says with a score of 24.
Ah. Well, you're in the right place today, Whitney, and I see you have 3 books over there, so I highly recommend you start reading immediately.
Okay.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it, and it actually leads perfectly into the first secret, because the first secret that we wanted to share with everybody today is that you are not your inner mean girl, as we've already said. She is a part of you, but you are actually not her, and that as you get to know your inner mean girl and actually create a relationship with her, you can start to really differentiate her voice from the voice of your inner wisdom. And so what we like to say at Inner Mean Girl Reform School is that as you get to know your inner mean girl, she'll start really feeling that connection with you in a way that can be more loving, more supportive. And so the key to that is really understanding who that archetype is. And so like you mentioned, we have this archetype quiz. We have 13 different archetypes that we've discovered over all of the years of doing our work at Inner Mean Girl Reform School. And so I was thinking, Christine, maybe we can name some of the most prevalent inner mean girl archetypes to just kind of get people started on what those archetypes are.
Yeah, and the great thing about learning what archetype your inner mean girl is, and like Whitney alluded to, you may have more than one. I actually have 5 inner mean girls. So some of these archetypes, many of them may feel familiar, and what we've found in working with really women from the age of 7 all the way up to probably 77, I'm sure we've had women in their 70s and 80s, is that no matter our race or our history or our socioeconomic background, these archetypes are the same across the world. And so the good news is that we're not alone. So that's the good news. Yay. And there's only 13, so we can deal with these, right? We can deal with these. And in the book, we actually go into depth about each one of the archetypes as well, right? We talk about the big fat lies that they use, the thoughts in your head, and we talk about the toxic habits that they all have, crazy weapons that they use. And we found that a good handful are probably the most common. So I think, Amy, that's a good place to start. Do you want to kind of just go back and forth, and we can share a little bit about some of the most common archetypes, and then those that are here with us live, you all can just start to listen and see, does this feel like one that might be present in you, or maybe even one that might be present inside of your daughter or your mother? This is great. You can start to learn inner mean girls. So I know Amy's inner mean girls, and she knows my inner mean girls, so that when one of us gets triggered, we don't have to have our inner mean girls becoming outer mean girls with each other. We can kind of press the pause button and be like, your inner mean girl's attacking me.
Oh my gosh, it's so true. Well, Whitney, you already mentioned one of a very prevalent inner mean girl archetype, which is the perfectionist. And I'm sure people who have the inner perfectionist inside of them, you know exactly who we're talking about. She's that one that is constantly grading you and really telling you must get an A+ on everything, even if it's something that isn't really that important to you. She makes every single little tiny thing in your life be something that's important and that deserves to get an A+. And so, of course, this can be really crazy making. All of a sudden you find yourself, before someone stops by, a friend of your best friend is stopping by for a cup of coffee, and suddenly you're scrubbing the floors with a toothbrush to make sure that every single thing is clean in the house. A+, please, on house cleaning. Or you're writing an email to someone at work, and you go over it 17 times before you press send to make sure that every single punctuation is right in its place because you want to get an A+ on that email. So the inner perfectionist is brutal. And it's very interesting because with the perfectionist, she can also cause you to procrastinate, which is really interesting. And Whitney's like, yes, I know that one. Yes, it's so true, right?
Absolutely.
Yes. So the perfectionist can cause you to procrastinate because in her mind, it's like, you're never going to get it perfect. You're never going to measure up. So why even bother start trying? Or you begin a project and it's like it's not perfect. You begin that first draft of the book and it's not perfect. So then suddenly the book ends up in your drawer for 15 years. Can anybody relate? I know you can. So that's one of those key archetypes, is the perfectionist.
Indeed. And I will share another one, which is actually the first inner mean girl that I ever found, met the comparison queen. My comparison queen's name is Mean Patty, and comparison queens, they love to compare your best to everyone else's worst. One of their best, most favorite secret weapons is the inferiority mirror. So it's like everything that you do, she finds somebody else that's doing it better. And so no matter how much you do, no matter how many accomplishments you've had, no matter what, she's just going to find someone who's doing it better, basically making you feel like crap about yourself. That's her big MO. And she can also flip the mirror around, and it becomes the superiority mirror, where she tries to make you feel better than everybody else. And the result is the same. You feel disconnected, you feel isolated, and you feel alone. And she, my inner mean girl, Mean Patty, boy, she has like big rulers. Like when my first book came out, she was like, well, Christine, great for you, you got a book, but like Barbara has a couch. Barbara's been on TV a million times. She's, Barbara Walters. Oprah has a couch. Like, what do you have? No one's going to talk to you, because she has big rulers. Like, she loves comparing to big people. And the thing is that as soon as you compare yourself, right, it just steals all the joy. Steals all the joy. So comparison queen is another big one.
I probably have some of her too.
She's pretty prevalent. Yeah. Well, and it's okay, Whitney and everyone listening. We all relate to all of are more prevalent for you. And Amy and I have discovered that for some women it actually feels like a gang, like separate individual inner mean girls. So like I have 5 separate individuals. Amy has one who's like Sybil. She has multiple personalities. So she can change personalities depending on whatever's going on with Amy.
It's true, yes. And you'll notice that Christine, named her inner comparison queen Mean Patty, and that's something that we encourage everybody to do in Reform Your Inner Mean Girl. And just a little inspiring homework assignment for all of you: name your inner mean girl. It can be really fun to actually give her a name. Negative Nellie is my inner mean girl. She has multiple personalities, like Christine said. And naming her can really help you differentiate and distinct her outside of your own voice. And so looking at that, I'll give one other example of an archetype. And again, you can go to innermeangirl.com/beyond in order to take the free Inner Mean Girl archetype quiz so that you can discover which of these 13 archetypes is running the show in your life, which we would love to help you identify that. And then we also actually, for each of the archetypes, we give you an instant deactivator tool so that you can try on something, a little tool, a little nugget for you, so that you can start deactivating that inner mean girl inside of you. So I'll tell on myself with one of my inner mean girls as well, and that is called the good girl. And this inner mean girl archetype, the good girl archetype, can be a little bit sneaky. Christine was saying earlier that not all inner mean girls are mean. Some of them are very sneaky. And the good girl archetype is incredibly sneaky because she is a major people pleaser. She is that voice within you that says, okay, someone comes up to you, I'm at my daughter's school, and someone comes up and is like, can you be room parent this year? And in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm launching a book, I have a 1-year-old baby at home, I have a husband, I want to have some sort of life. Probably not the best use of my time to be a room parent. But then in swoops my inner good girl who wants to people please and make sure that she is liked. And of course, she wants me to say yes. Fortunately, I've reformed my good girl, so I don't say yes. But that is exactly what happens with the good girl, is that she comes in, she has you saying yes when you really mean no. She has absolutely no boundaries. All that she cares about is how much people like her and how much she can please everybody else around her. And of course, the cost of that inner good girl is that then you might not actually like yourself or your life, because suddenly you have nothing left for yourself. There's no self-care. There's no self-love in there. Everybody else has become your priority, and then there you are, crying on the couch with a pint of ice cream at midnight, because you have nothing left for yourself. You've been giving to everybody else all day. I've never done that before, but I hear that that's what they do. So those are just a few of the archetypes. We could really spend all day talking about the archetypes. I don't know. Christine, I'm thinking that maybe we need to just talk about the achievement junkie for a minute. Do you want to talk about her before we move on to secret number 2?
I'll give a quick synopsis of the achievement junkie. Amy and I, so all you know, are known at our workshops for actually embodying the archetypes, and we actually bring them to life, and it's like full on improv, so it's no kidding. So if you could ever come to one of our workshops, we'll have a lot of fun. We love to act them out. So actually, I'm feeling like talking about the rejection queen.
Oh, good. Okay.
I'm not going to mention the achievement junkie, although she's also one of my archetypes. But since I have 5, we'll talk about the rejection queen. So the rejection queen is that part of you, that inner mean girl inside of you. She's the one who sometimes will be, like, for some of our clients and some of our students, you're unlovable. Like, just basically makes you feel like you're not lovable. Like, literally, people have this thought in their head and inside, like, I'm just not lovable, I'm damaged goods. Like, almost kind of at the most destructive level, that's where the rejection queen goes. But in you having the fear of being rejected, so you do things like you don't ask for help. You don't put yourself out there. You don't reach out. And, for me, she would show up like, I may want to I wanted to reach out to somebody that I knew had an inner mean girl. Ariana Huffington, for example, has an inner mean girl. Who knew? She calls them her crazy roommates in her head. And I was like, I really want to reach out to Ariana and be like, hey, can I help you? Like, I know how to get rid of them. Like, I know what to do with them. And the rejection queen inside me is like, you can't reach out to Ariana. Like, she won't open your email. Who are you? She builds up this whole story of who are you, and they won't like you, and you won't be accepted. And so you do things to make it so that you don't get rejected. And so that what you end up doing is you cut off opportunities for yourself. You work harder than you have to. You are often doing more than you have to all on your own because you're simply afraid of rejection. And that's the thing about all of the inner mean girl archetypes and all of the inner mean we call them, they're like fear's Halloween costume. It's like if fear put on, a costume, that would be your inner mean girl. And so behind every single one of these inner mean girls lies deep, deep, deep fear. I could go on about my stories about why I have that fear of rejection, and I'm sure many of you have that too. And that's what we found by kind of lightening this up a little bit and being able to also, it's kind of funny, right? Like, I have a mean girl named Mean Patty. She has big rulers. She has red hair. She wears a smock. It's like I can relate to her in a way she's almost kind of absurd. She's almost absurd. And so what we found is that when you become an observer of this instead of a victim to it, and you can bring some lightness to it, it actually helps you access some pretty deep parts inside of yourself that, got born when you were 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, who knows when that happened, to your little girl self. And it then allows you to go back into those places and really love those places so that you can have love there instead of fear and, live your greatest, most awesome life.
That sounds fantastic. Is that part of secret number 2?
Yeah, actually, secret number 2 is really allowing you to understand the good news is that you have another voice inside of you. So yes, there's the inner mean girl voice, whether you have a good girl or an achievement junkie or a doing addict or a worrywart, no matter what that is, you also, and we promise, every single human being on the planet has that other voice inside of them that we like to call your inner wisdom. And that is the voice of truth. That is the voice of love. That is the voice of peace inside of you. And so that's one of the key things that we really talk about in Reform Your Inner Mean Girl and in our programs at Inner Mean Girl Reform School, is that it's not just about identifying that inner critic and that inner mean girl and getting to know her. The whole second section of our book is about getting to know your inner wisdom and actually having her on speed dial in your life, having her become your new BFF. Right? And because so often we don't take the time to really cultivate a beautiful relationship with our inner wisdom. And that is the key to reforming your inner mean girl. It's like getting to know her is all what part 1 of the book is about. Getting to know her. Why is she here? Where did that inner mean girl come from? And then, most importantly, going into who is that inner wisdom? How do you start really paying attention to and hearing or seeing or feeling or just knowing that voice inside of you? And that is really that source of loving truth. And so we kind of, we like to say, one of the most common questions that we get at Inner Mean Girl Reform School and with our books and when we're at our workshops and retreats and doing all these virtual classes is, how do you really distinguish out the voice of your inner mean girl and the voice of your inner wisdom? How do you know? How do you know who's talking to you at where? And this is really where the superpower tool comes in of using your body. And I know that Christine has a really great way of helping people tune into that inner wisdom voice. Do you want to go into that a little, Christine?
Yeah, well, it's one of the biggest questions that we get is how to tell the difference between your inner mean girl and your inner wisdom. And it all comes down to one thing, your body. Mm-hmm. Because your body never, ever, ever lies. And we like to think of it almost like if you were to put your left hand out, go ahead, everyone put your left hand out, this is where your inner mean girl is standing. And then put your right hand out, this is where your inner wisdom is. It's almost like I could see little people, like little people on my hands here, right? And so your inner mean girl right here on the left, if your body, think of your body like a broadcasting station, like a radio station, like a station that has a frequency and a vibe to it. And you're either emitting what's going on here on the left-hand channel, which is FEAR, fear. We like to kind of think of it as 88.9 FM, FEAR. So you're either like broad. And so when that shows up in your body, you feel things like anxiety, worry. You might feel like constriction in your jaw. You might grind your teeth. You might feel spinny. You might feel frustrated. You might feel heavy. You might, all those kinds of things that just make you feel more contracted or more out of control or too much in control. And that's all an indication that your inner mean girl has taken over the broadcasting station, which means she's running your thoughts, which means she's moderating your emotions. And so the good news is that there is another station. You don't just have to broadcast on that station. This is how come sometimes inner mean girls become outer mean girls, right? So when you're feeling all that inside, for some of us, our mean girls, can definitely become outer mean girls, as well. Especially those perfectionists, we have to watch out for them. They like to pick on everybody else when they're not picking on ourselves. So the good news is that you have this other channel, which is a channel of your inner wisdom, and that's 108.00 FM. That's the way I like to think of it. We call it, that's a different channel, and it's 108 because it's the most significant number of the universe. You can Google it. There's all kinds of spiritual, wonderful reasons why that's true. There's 108 beads in a mala. There's 108 names for the Virgin Mary. Like, it's just, the yogic system is based on 108. So this is the channel of loving truth, right? This is a channel of loving truth, which is what your inner wisdom is. And when your loving truth is broadcasting, even if the truth is sometimes hard, because your inner wisdom's not always like, oh, it's fine, and sometimes it's not fine. Sometimes it's like she got a hard truth she's going to deliver to you, but she's not going to deliver it hard like the inner mean girl. She's going to be with you like a best friend would. And when that truth comes in, it's going to feel grounded in your body. It's hard to hear. There's a groundedness. There's a levity to it. There's a kerplunk to it. Also, you know, when this station's broadcasting, you feel calmer. You feel more peaceful. You feel more centered. And you can feel anxious, but it's not anxious like spinny. It's more like excitement. You know, when you don't know what's going to happen and you don't know, but it's like, okay, you can do it anyway. So you really want to start getting in tune with your body. Most people that we work with that don't think they have an inner wisdom and are just so confused about these two is that they're just out of touch with this. And so that's the first step of really getting to know the difference between the two.
Well, it was very interesting what you were saying. It's like you were saying like your inner wisdom doesn't always just say, oh no, that's okay, because I was just thinking, wow, that kind of goes into the good girl, inner mean girl. And so it's like it makes so much sense. It's like you get to know your inner mean girls first so you can hear them and discern them from that other, from 108.00.
Oh yeah, I mean, even like for me with the rejection queen, she'll be like, you know, she'll have a total truth of like, oh, well, you know, you should just do it on your own because it'll just be way better that way, you know. And it sounds totally rational and it sounds totally sane, but when I'm saying that, like, I can feel like the heaviness and the weight, you know, in my body of doing it on my own versus like when I'm actually, my inner wisdom would say, well, yeah, you know, you might think it's safer to do it on your own, but if you actually are vulnerable, which rejection queens hate to be vulnerable. Most inner mean girls hate it, but really the rejection queen hates it. I can feel that truth in my body, even if it's scary.
Mm. And Christine, it seems like inner mean girls have been hijacking your internet connection because you're cutting in and out, sweetheart. So I don't know if you can plug into a hard line because your picture keeps going in and out.
Thank you.
Yeah, I figured that you might be able to just plug it in.
Mean girls do that. They mess with technology.
I know, they try to get on our minds, Whitney. When we talk about this stuff, I tell you what, it means love to come in there like, let me do a little technology problem for you. They don't want to be found out. They like to hide in the shadows.
Well, and the one thing that I wanted to point out before we move on, and something that I don't know if everybody else has noticed, but it's like you guys are actually telling us, you're not telling us to get rid of our inner mean girls. You're telling us to reform them. And I think there's a lot of schools of thought that it's like you hear that negative thing and you're trying to get rid of it. Like you're trying to like stop thinking those things or like automatically say something nice that kind of goes directly in opposition to that thing that you said.
Right.
You guys aren't saying get rid of. You're saying reform.
Right.
Why?
Yeah, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you asked this, Whitney, because it's so true. I mean, well, first of all, let's be clear. If we could just kill off our inner mean girls and just like chop off their heads and then be done with it and we never had a negative thought ever again, sign me up. I would be like, oh,
me too.
Yeah, let's do it, right? But here's the thing, not the way the human brain works, not the way the human spirit works. So there's no way to actually kill them off. And so what we found in our work over and over and over again is that if instead we start really forming that relationship with our inner mean girls, really getting to know them, understanding their tricks, and then, and this is what we do in the 7-step process in our book, is we actually help you walk through and love your inner mean girl into submission. Love her into a new job. Love her into saying, sweetheart, you don't need to protect me this way. Because really at the genesis of the inner mean girl is really about reforming her, and the genesis of her has actually been protection. Mm-hmm. So allowing her to say, okay, you don't need to protect me this way anymore. That's one of the areas that we have women go into in the book is, when did this inner mean girl come into life? What was she trying to protect you from at that time? Like Christine's rejection queen, what was she trying to protect Christine from, where she said, you know what? We're just not going to reach out anymore because you're going to get hurt, so I'm going to protect you in this way. Mm-hmm. With my good girl and my inner people pleaser, it's like, Well, yeah, of course. She was just trying to have me please everybody around me so that I could be seen as good and so that I could get the love that I needed. So there's a distinct reason and purpose for our inner mean girls. And so as we get to know them and say, okay, sweetheart, we can love you and we're going to actually redeploy you for good things in our life. And that's actually step 7 of the 7-step process, is actually redeploying her and assigning her to a job for you so that she can actually work for you in your life. So it becomes really fascinating. So it isn't about killing them off. It's actually about loving them.
Well, and I love that too, because I as you guys are talking, I'm thinking of my mother, because my mother and I butt heads all the time, and I think it's probably because she and I have the same mean girls. She's a perfectionist, I'm a perfectionist, and she definitely sees it as an asset. She always is like, my perfectionism gets things done exactly the way that they should be done. In other words, her way. And all of those things, and so she's always seen it as an asset. So I love the fact that we're reforming her, because I know that my mother's never gonna give up that her perfectionism is an asset.
Right.
But like, I want to give her you guys' book as soon as she gets back. She's on vacation right now, but give her your book so she can read through it, and maybe she and I read through it at the same time and can talk about what we're both dealing with.
Absolutely. Well, and that's the. Oh, go ahead, Christine.
I was going to say, we find it's one of the reasons why we decided to write this book, and why we've dedicated the last 5 years to having this conversation, because we find when women are actually being able to talk about this, they're like, just breakthroughs happen and connection happens. Like, oh my God, like, you feel that way? Oh my God, you feel that way? And it's like our inner mean girls create this disconnection. So when we can actually start to have the same context to talk about it, we actually see the most amazing shifts happen. And we oftentimes see mothers and daughters with very, very similar inner mean girls. That happens oftentimes at our workshops, where like the mother and daughter would be like, oh, you and you, and it's like, it creates this like, woo, freedom, to make a shift. And it's, what you're talking about, Whitney, isn't surprising. It's actually, there's a whole chapter in the book, I can't remember which step it is, maybe passion over self-bullying. And what we've learned as women is that we have this misbelief that if I push myself, if I put pressure on myself, then I will be more productive. That's what we've learned to do for a long time. And I bet if your mom was really honest with herself, and most of our mothers of that generation and the ones of us that got those, those same beliefs, we're not happy. Women today are less happy than they were in the 1970s, and we have way more rights and freedoms and opportunities. Our happiness levels have not actually risen. And part of it is because of this misbelief that we have to push ourselves in order to motivate ourselves and get stuff done. And what we've found, and what our inner wisdom knows inherently inside, is actually, if we love ourselves forward, if we use compassion, right, to actually motivate ourselves, just like you would motivate a child learning to walk, or you would motivate a child learning to ride a bike, or a child going through her first dating experience. We know inherently to do that to our children, but somehow we don't think that applies to us, because, I don't know, over the age of 13, all of a sudden you should be pressured instead of receive compassion. And so we're really inviting and calling women everywhere, and the men in our lives and the women in our lives, to support us really in sisterhood. And Noah is one of my biggest supporters, to say, give yourself a break, because we don't know how to do that as women. So we're asking women to really say, it's not okay that you put this much pressure on yourself, and back off, inner mean girl. Like, you can actually be way more productive if you just give me some space, and I can use compassion, gentle, loving truth instead of all that pushing and pressure.
So I should stop yelling at my husband when he tells me to stop doing the dishes and go sit down and relax?
Oh, yes. Wait, yes, yell. Hug the man. Don't yell at him. Are you kidding me? Hug him, love him, give him lots of kisses, and then go sit down and relax.
Well, and I think, and it's something that I think of all the time. It's like there's women out there, and I've experienced this so many times, where when they're asked to sit down and relax, or just say, oh, leave that for later, then you can come sit down and be with your guests or whatever else that is. They're like, no, I have to get this done now. And it's just it just appears. It just magically appears. I don't know where it came from.
Yes, that is likely.
That sounds like the doing addict for sure, which is another one of our archetypes. Doing addicts cannot sit still, period. They are addicted to doing and staying busy and constantly being in motion. And it's like, it feels like nails on a chalkboard for them to sit still and just be. And so it's brutal. It's really brutal, and it's exhausting. It's that bumper sticker. What was that bumper sticker, Christine, that Chris Carlson saw? It's like
I am woman. I am invincible. I am tired. Something like that. And this bumper sticker, she saw this is our friend Chris Carlson, who wrote the Don't Sweat the Small Stuff for Women's book, like back in like the 90s. She's actually, we included her in the Reform Your Inner Mean Girl book, some of her awesome wisdom, because she saw that bumper sticker in like the 80s or 90s, and we still feel the same way. So, things aren't changing, and that's why we're having this conversation, and that's why we know this works, when you actually are able to pull that force out of you. So I have a doing addict. Her name is Bionic Gloria, and she used to have these huge clipboards, and it was always like she would go to bed with me at night. So I put my head on the pillow, and all I could think about is all I haven't done yet, and it took me an hour to fall asleep. And then I would wake up, and the first thing that would happen is the to-do list would start going in my head. And it was like Bionic Gloria was like sleeping in bed with me. It was like there was like 3 people and a dog, me, Noah, my dog, and Bionic Gloria in the bed. And so I did end up reforming her. I gave her a new job, and her new job is as my superstar assistant. So her new name is I've Got It, Gloria, which means that if I have something that comes up, it's like, oh my God, I have to do that. I just throw it over to Gloria, who now wears a tracksuit. She's been like a whole makeover. She got a makeover when I reformed her. She got a new hairdo because she had really bad hair. And she has this really awesome clipboard that's polka dotted. And she's like, I got it. I'll write it down. And this is the craziest thing that I didn't even know when I was reforming her this would happen. Sometimes when you reform, oftentimes an inner mean girl, like I made the superstar assistant, I created this new job for her. On the outside, you start receiving help and people that show up to be that reformed inner mean girl. So since then, I've had 3 of the most amazing assistants who literally do that for me. I just send them emails and I say, remember this, do this, so I don't have to have it in my space. So literally the help on the outside starts to show up.
I just have to say, Christine, I love how, not only have you given her a name, but she's a full person. You know her hairdo, you know what she wears, you know how she is around you, you know that she's a polka dotted clipboard. That's fantastic. And it just, I have this vision of this little being popping out of your brain. And over here, so you can talk to them, and they're not, just right there in your head and just yelling at you. And I love the fun in it. And I just want to show everybody the cover of the book. I know we've got some back there, but up close, it's just such a fun cover. I love it. It's so colorful and engaging, and it really speaks to the fact that you guys aren't sitting down and having us meditate and be super serious and discover all of these things. And we get those results, the kinds of results you guys are talking about. But this sounds like a lot of fun.
Yes, fun is one of our core values at Inner Mean Girl Reform School. It is absolutely, and you will find that's the thing that we really wanted. We wanted to infuse the book and really everything that we do in such a way that there is absolutely fun and playfulness in every single step. And people really underestimate the power of play. It is so powerful. And so this is a little nugget for all of you listening right now. Draw your inner mean girl. Take that on as an assignment. And this is something, as part of the readers, for everybody, that when you're reading the book, there's actually an inner wisdom kit that we have gifted everybody that reads the book and is a reader of the book, that buys the book, gets this inner wisdom kit. And in the inner wisdom kit, you go onto our website, and it's all downloadable information. And one of the tools in there is actually a video with our incredible friend who's a visionary artist, the founder of the Intentional Creativity Movement, Shiloh Sophia McLeod, who takes all of the readers through a journey to visualize and actually draw their inner meals. Because when we take the pen or the paints or the crayons or the sketch pad or what have you, and we put that down and we get out of that left brain and into that right brain and use that to create these images of our inner mean girls, it breaks it down for us. It's like this explosion of playfulness and absolute power. So it's something we actually even have in the back of the book. We have an Inner Mean Girl Hall of Fame, we call it, where we included some of our students' drawings of their inner mean girls to inspire all of our readers to actually do this. So everybody watching, draw your inner mean girl. It's so fun and it's incredibly powerful.
That's fantastic. Well, and so I want to get back to the secrets too, because I'm super, okay, so, well, number one, I just want to mention one more time that if you guys are listening and you're like, oh my goodness, who is my inner mean girl? I have an idea because they've mentioned a few and I see myself in that. But go and take the quiz, because the quiz, and you get a lot more information about your inner mean girl. And as Amy said, you get your deactivator, which I'm very excited about. So I can actually, not only do you find out who they are, but you find out how you can, start to reform them on your own. Go to www.innermeangirl.com/beyond, and you can take that quiz. You can find out which inner mean girls, running the show, as they say. And then you can come back, watch this again, go through the secrets and figure it out. And so right now we have secret number one, which is that you have an inner mean girl and she's not you.
That's right.
And number two, that you also have an inner wisdom, not just an inner mean girl. So what is secret number three?
Okay, I have to do my little sound effect. Should we do a sound effect?
Yes.
I think.
Okay, secret number three. Here it comes.
Okay, here we go. Secret number three is that you actually have the power to choose. You have the power to choose which of these voices is going to be in the driver's seat of your life, your inner mean girl or your inner wisdom. Because that's really what it's about. It's about not letting your inner mean girl make your decisions anymore. Not allowing her to be in the driver's seat of your life. As we mentioned, you cannot kill her off. We know that you might want to, but you can't. But you can reform her, you can transform her, and you can put her in the back seat of your life instead of in the driver's seat of your life. We want your inner wisdom there. And what we continue to do through our step-by-step process in the book is really help walk women through transforming it, reforming it, and then putting their inner wisdom and empowering their inner wisdom to be in the driver's seat of their life. And so I'm actually feeling inspired. I think, what do you think, Christine? Should we do the wake-up call 3-step process with Whitney as our our person, if she's willing?
Sure.
I'm willing to do pretty much anything. Go ahead. Okay, that's what I thought. You said you were an open book, so that's good. Okay, great. So this is a tool that we teach in the book and that at Inner Mean Girl Reform School, and it's called the Wake Up Call 3-Step Process. And this is one of our superpower tools that allows you, in the moment that your inner mean girl strikes, you're having an inner mean girl attack, and really you know that your inner mean girl is present when you're feeling any sort of negative emotion, from feeling mildly irritated to feeling absolutely enraged or completely depressed and sad, super stressed out. Any negative emotion is like a warning light, like wah, 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 that your inner mean girl is present. So, Whitney, I actually want you for a moment to just think about an area of your life where you're being a little hard on yourself right now in your life. And you don't even have to tell us about it, although you can. Just go ahead and bring something to mind. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I'm fully willing to share. I've shared so many things. I would say my relationship with my best friend.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. So now what I want you to do, and this is step one in the 3-step process, the first step is, what is your inner mean girl saying? I want you to let your inner mean girl rant about this relationship with your best friend.
Oh my goodness, okay. I'll do this. I can do it. Why does everybody find her cuter than me? Why is she so much more interesting than me? Why does everybody pay more attention to her than me? Why does she get to go shopping all the time? Why does she get to eat whatever she wants? Why does she never do the dishes? Why does she always, why does she not have any emotion? Why is she not as frustrated as I am about this? Why doesn't she just get it? Yeah.
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 And what does she say that? What does your inner mean girl make that mean about you? You're so
that she's better than me, that she's worth more than me, that there's definitely something wrong with me.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mm.
Yeah. Thank you, Whitney. So now, sweetheart, now that we've heard from your inner mean girl, we're going to go to step 2. Thank you so much for being so vulnerable here. So I want you to go ahead and close your eyes. And everybody watching, you can do this with us. Take a deep breath. Whitney, what does your inner wisdom know?
That she loves me. And that I love her.
And what else?
That she's always there for me when I need her, and that she'd be willing to do pretty much anything if I asked her.
What does your inner wisdom know about you?
That one's harder.
Let's take a breath again. Connect in with that inner wisdom, that source of truth and love.
That I am loving, that I have everything I need. That I am everything that I need.
Beautiful. So I just want you to hear this reflected back to you. Just go ahead and stay in that present state of just receptivity. So Whitney, you and your best friend love each other. And she would do absolutely anything for you. And you have everything that you need. And you are more than enough. And so then going to step 3, just find a movement, some sort of movement or small gesture that really has you connect with your inner wisdom. For me, I put my hand on my heart. Some people tap on their heart, whatever works for you. And I just want you to repeat back your inner wisdom's truth as you do that physical movement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, that's exactly what came to me. It's just putting my hand on my heart. Just that I love my best friend. And my best friend loves me. And I have everything that I need. And that I am more than enough.
Yeah. Beautiful. And when you're ready, you can go ahead and take another breath and open your eyes. Thank you so much, Whitney. That was so incredibly vulnerable and unbelievably powerful. And I know that not only did you just do some incredible work for yourself, but that you just healed so many women with the way that you just showed up. And the female competition, that where we start tearing each other down, even with people that we know love us and people that we love them, and those inner comparison queens, like the work that you just did will have a ripple effect. Will have a ripple effect. So thank you so much for doing that for yourself and for everybody. That's been doing for me as well. Thank you.
I just want to run home. I just want to go find her and go give her a hug. And tell her I love her.
Well, it's so it's such a great reflection of what these inner mean girls do, not just to ourselves, right, but also to our relationships and our friendships with other women. And like that's in our energy field, you know, it does create distance, it does create that, and you're not the only one to feel that way, Whitney. I mean, that's just so prevalent, as Amy was saying. And what we've found, we actually, interestingly enough, one of our first students in Inner Mean Girl Reform School, she was so inspired by the first step, the process of identifying the inner mean girl, and the 3-step process, that she she took the work into a prison system that she worked in, and she taught just the first step of identifying the mean girls and a little bit about the 3-step process. And the next day she came into work, and the prison guards were like, "What did you teach these women?" And she's like, "Oh no, like I'm in trouble. And they're like, "No." They're like women were getting into a fight, and then the women said, "I'm not going to fight with you. That's my inner mean girl talking." And they literally stopped fighting. Like, being able to actually identify and know your inner mean girl stopped prison violence. So if it could do that, think about the violence it could stop that we do in here to ourselves, and the violence between each other, emotional, verbal, all of it. It really is it's the root. It's the root to get to, and so we really feel like this has the power to just really lift women up, because how can we be the mothers and sisters and women and do the things we want to in the world when this is dragging us down and it's getting in the way of us being truly in the sisterhood that we're meant to be in.
I love that thought, the sisterhood, that just all women, like, we're all in that sisterhood together. And it's so true. As soon as I got all of that out and I started listening to my inner wisdom, all that was there, really, truly, all that was there was love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's her inner wisdom. She's the voice of loving truth. Yeah. Instead of the inner mean girl with the horns.
Very nice.
I had to use the horns. I wanted to use the horns. Inner mean girl. I was got in trouble.
Yeah.
I was got in trouble.
Yes. Well, and I love the idea that well, thank you so much for taking me through that exercise. That really, I've been reading parts of your book and I've been hearing about things, but I haven't actually taken on one of the exercises myself, and I really it just shifted. And for me, it's such a huge part of my life. All of that stuff that I was describing, I do have that with my best friend, but then, there's other places where things like that show up. And I know that's my inner comparison. What is it? Comparison
queen. Yeah.
Comparison queen. Oh yes, she is queen.
Yeah.
That's just coming out, and the fact that in that moment when I really got in touch with my inner wisdom, that I could really feel what it would be like to not have her in the driver's seat. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, that's new.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, and especially with comparison queens, that's the thing, is that as you start to reform them, they can become your talent scout. They can become, oh, I'm comparing myself to this person. What's inspiring me about them? Inspiration is the antidote for comparison. It's like, oh, I'm comparing myself to my best friend. I'm comparing myself to this person on TV. I'm comparing myself to you name it. And it's like, oh, there's some sort of desire. There's some sort of nugget of inspiration there. So if I can transform it and twist the comparison into inspiration, it opens up so much for you. And even with my daughter Annabella, who's 7.5, she has an inner comparison queen. And we always say compare and despair. That compare and despair. And it's so hard when they're little and they're 7 years old. Like, they're literally in 2nd grade, as the teacher says, they are trying to figure out their place in the world. They're trying to understand who they are. And so that comparison is part of it. But then when the compare and despair comes up and it goes down this rabbit hole of her feeling bad about herself, her feeling this person's smarter than me, this person's cuter than me, so-and-so is more like than me, this person's more popular than me. And I'm like, honey, if you can at age 7 start to use some of these tools to allow that voice of your inner wisdom to be your guide, so that when that voice comes up, to be able to go and do that little mini 3-step process for yourself, even in your head. Oh my gosh, at age 7, if she can start doing that now and have that be a tool that she goes to, I mean, I'm so excited for her. And she can do it. She can actually identify that inner wisdom voice. It's amazing. And I know Christine's done this work with her goddess daughters too.
Yeah, sometimes for my goddess daughter, I say, what do the fairies know, instead of the inner wisdom, and that tends to work too. Because sometimes they're like, they may not understand the vernacular, but the same process works, and that's, that is really the 3rd secret, and really, it's really about being able to, in the moment, make that shift. So we call it, being able to really make that shift in the midst of an inner mean girl attack. And then also, you want to actually lessen the attacks so they happen less frequently and that they throw you off your game for less amount of time. And so then what starts to happen is you want to put preventative care into play to really build your emotional and spiritual muscles, to strengthen your relationship with your inner wisdom. And so that's a whole other piece that we bring in. So it's not just about dealing with the attack, although we have really good superpower tools for that. There's also every day making sure, are you speaking to your inner wisdom? Are you having a daily moment with your inner wisdom? I don't leave my house without checking in with my inner wisdom. And think about it. It's like a best friend. Like if you stop calling your friend, what's going to happen? They're going to stop calling you. They're going to stop talking to you. So many of us are just so busy in our lives, and we're like moving, or we think we have to, meditate on a cushion for an hour. Actually, no, you can actually talk to your inner wisdom in less than 3 minutes every morning, and it would change your life. So we are, our double dog dare to everybody listening would be to make sure that you're having a sacred date with your inner wisdom every day. And my double dog dare would be to do it every morning before you ever even get out of bed, to actually ask your inner wisdom the question, because most of us aren't getting what we need, which is why we have inner mean girl attacks. So just every morning before you get out of bed,
you cut out right as you were about to ask the question. What do I need to ask myself?
No, I'm hardwired, so I don't know what to say to all your inner mean girls out there that are trying to cut me off.
Hijacking. They're trying to hijack. Ah! So what was the question, Christine, in the morning that you wanted to say?
There's two questions you could ask. Either what do I need to receive today, which will make sure that you actually get what you need and you don't throw your self-care out the window, or just what do I need to hear today? And sometimes we just need to hear those words of compassion from ourselves. So either one of those words, and statements and questions. And if you don't hear anything at the beginning because your inner wisdom's kind of mad because you haven't been calling lately, just make something up and just like whatever you want to say. And eventually it will happen. And we say fake it till you make it. But eventually it will start talking to you. And then it will start showing up in the bigger places. Because when you're making the decision about the job or the relationship or the house, like you want your inner wisdom to be like you trust it, you hear it, you know how it talks to you, you know the channels it operates on you, which we get into in step 4 and 5 in the book, to really be crystal clear about the difference to it and trust that inner wisdom. And that's part of doing it every single day.
Well, I have an alarm in my phone that goes off every morning when I'm supposed to get up, and it used to say something random, and now I just changed it so that it said those 2 questions that you just shared with us. So,
yay!
I've set my date. It's amazing.
Sacred date. Sacred inner wisdom date. Awesome. Woohoo, Whitney, over there reforming her perfectionism comparison queen. Watch out.
Well, and the thing, and again, like I've been thinking about this all week, knowing that I was going to come talk with you guys. It's like there's almost an emptiness and a loneliness, like you talked about before, when the comparison queen or when the inner mean girl really is reigning. All of a sudden, it just feels like your actions are empty and your interactions are empty, and I know that is, for me, that will be an indicator of when my inner mean girl is having a field day. And maybe that's something that other people can watch for. I don't know if that's something that you've noticed with your clients that you've worked with or with yourselves.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I also notice I get cranky, I get crabby, I can feel defeated. When it gets really bad, it's like, is this even all worth it? Does anyone even care? Am I even making a difference?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's really, it's like what happens when your inner mean girl's on the scene, discovering what happens when she's on the scene. What is she costing you? Where does she often show up? This is all in step 2 of the book. It's like really getting clear on where that inner mean girl shows up and what happens when she shows up. What does she make you do? Does she make you overeat, overspend? Does she make you get in a fight with your best friend? Does she make you call your mom and yell at her? Does she make you get crabby? Does she make, what does she do? And really getting, oh my gosh, that's not me. I don't want to be doing that. that's actually my inner mean girl. And then going, what does my inner wisdom know? What are these inner wisdom actions? When my inner wisdom is in charge, what would my life look like? And I mean, that's where the magic is.
Well, we are almost to our hour. Like, we're very, very close. And I just wanted to say thank you both so, so much for being on this show, not only for just the work that you've done here, but also for writing this book, for putting this out there into the world so that there are people. I'm just picturing groups of women sitting around, like, having read this for their their book club. Can you imagine this for a book club as opposed to whatever random fiction piece out there, and the kinds of conversations that you can have?
Yeah,
no
it's
inner
powerful.
mean girl gets left behind. That's our motto.
That's right.
As we like to say, when women come together, shift happens.
I like it. Well, thank you again. Thank you so much. And for everyone out there, if you have not gone yet to take the quiz, go now. It actually only took me like 3 minutes to take it because the answers to the questions were so very apparent. And again, you can go to www.innermeangirl.com/beyond and you can take that quiz. It's free. So go take, enjoy, and then I wanted to let everybody know that 2 weeks from now we're going to have our very first summit here on Beyond Words Presents, and it's in honor of the Afterlife Awareness Show. There's going to be several of the speakers who will be at that conference, who will also be on the show, so you can get a sneak peek and see if you want to head over there to Virginia Beach in June, end of May, somewhere around there. Anyway, again, Christine, Amy, thank you so, so much. It's been such a pleasure. It's been so much fun.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us. Much love, everyone.
Thank you. Mwah.